last time we talked about the humerus, and we stopped here.
Yes.
So let's continue with the forearm. The forearm has two bones, radius and ulna. The radial bone is a long bone. Of course, it has a body and two ends, proximal and distal end. It is located on the thumb side of the forearm, on the lateral side, and runs parallel to the ulna. You can see here, that's the radius, that's the ulna. And here you can see the body has three surfaces and three borders. We have anterior border, that's the anterior view. Not here, anterior view. That's the posterior view, and we have posterior border and one which is medial border, or also it is called margo interosseus. Of course, if you have three borders, we have also three surfaces. Anterior surface here, posterior surface, and of course, lateral surface. So let's start with the proximal end. Here we have the head of the radius, caput radii, with fovea capitis radii for articulation with the capitulum of the humerus, if you remember from the last time. We have one circumference of the head, circumferentia articularis, which articulates with the radial notch of the ulna. You can see here, that's the ulnar bone, that's the radial notch of the ulna. And here is the circumferentia radii, circumferentia articularis of the radial bone. So, head with the articular surface, fovea capitis radii, and circumferentia articularis for the articulation with the ulnar bone. Below the head is the neck of the radius, caput radii. After that, beneath the neck, we have radial tuberosity, tuberositas radii. About the lower extremity or distal extremity of the radius, it has, of course, styloid process and articular surface for the carpal bones, facies articularis carpalis, which articulates with the scaphoid and the ulnate bones. And they are bones of the hand. Of course, we have, you can see here, that's the ulnar notch or incisura ulnaris, which articulates with the head of the ulna. Processus tibialis is located on the lateral side of the radial bone. And these are the most important things. So we have, it's a long bone on the forearm, located laterally. We have body, proximal and distal end. On the proximal end, we have head with articular surface, fovea capitis radii, and circumferentia capitis radii for connection with the ulnar bone. After that, we have the neck of the radius, radial tuberosity. On the distal end, we have styloid process located laterally and articular surface for the carpal bones. Of course, we have another notch, ulnar notch, for the connection with the head of the ulna. Three borders, anterior, posterior here, and interosseal border, this one and this one, which is the sharpest. And three surfaces. That's the anterior surface, that's the posterior surface, and here should be the lateral surface, this one here. So head, neck, body with radial tuberosity, the three surfaces and the three borders, proximal and styloid process laterally, and articular surface for the carpal bones, ulnar notch for the head of the ulna. That's it. Next time you will see it. You can see here the connection between the circumferentia radii and the radial notch of the ulna. That's the proximal radio-ulnar joint. Here is fovea capitis radii. That's the head of the radius. This is ulnar bone. Radial tuberosity, anterior border is this one. So here, between the radius and the ulna is the interossal border, margo interosseus. Between the two bones is located an interosseous membrane. You can see it. Here is the styloid process, which is laterally. And between the ulnar notch of the radius and the head of the ulna is the distal radio-ulnar joint. So we have proximal joint between them and distal joint. You can see here again the head with articular surface, the neck of the radius, radial tuberosity. That's the anterior view, so this is the anterior border. That's the interosseous border, anterior surface, of course. On the inferior side, we have articular surface for the carpal bones. That's the styloid process. The next bone of the forearm is the ulna, which is also a long bone. Here you can see on the same side of the forearm as the little finger, so medially. The ulnar bone is located medially, the radial bone is located laterally. You can see. What we have here, again, we have body, proximal, and distal end. About the body, or corpus ulnae, so I want to see, okay, maybe here. Again, we have three borders, three surfaces. We have anterior border here. That's the anterior border. That's the posterior border. And here, again, the sharpest border is the interosseous border between the bones. Of course, we have also three surfaces. That's the anterior, that's the posterior here, and that's the lateral surface. Posterior, lateral. That's the anterior. What we have on the proximal extremity? Of course, we have one process here, which is called olecranon. Olecranon. It is large and is located at the back part of the ulna. You can see that's the anterior view, so that's the back part here. And of course, the other process is this one here, coronoid process, processus coronoideus, which is smaller and at the front part of the ulna. This one here. Okay. What else? As the same like the radial tuberosity, we have here ulnar tuberosity. You can see this one and this one. And of course, here between the olecranon and the coronoid process, we have one notch, which is called trochlear notch, incisura trochlearis. This one here, which articulates with the trochlea of the humerus. The other notch is here, which is called the radial notch. for connection with the head of the radius. So one trochlear notch here for connection with the humerus, especially the trochlea of the humerus. This one here, which is called a radial notch for connection with the radial bone. Questions? You can see here olecranon at the back part of the ulna. That's the coronoid process. Trochlear notch, which is bigger, for connection with the trochlea humeri. Here should be the radial notch for articulation with the head of the radius. That's the body with the 3 surfaces and 3 borders. And of course, on the distal part here, we have again styloid process. You can see here and here. And of course, we have the head of the ulna, caput ulnae, with the same circumferentia articularis like the head of the radius. But the head of the radius is located proximally, while the head of the ulna is located distally. You can see the bigger part of the ulna is located proximally. Smaller part is distally. Here should be the carpal bones. That's the styloid process of the radius, that's the styloid process of the ulna, which is medially. This one of the radius is located laterally. The interosseous membrane between them, the same borders, anterior for the radius and for the ulna, posterior borders, and between the bones are the interosseous borders here. Radial tuberosity, of course, we have ulnar tuberosity. That's the head of the radius with circumferentia articularis for the radial notch of the ulna. That's the olecranon here. That's the coronoid process. And between them is the trochlear notch for connection with the humerus. At the distal part, we have articular surface for the carpal bones. Of course, the head of the ulna with the same circumferentia articularis for the connection with the radial bone. Here we have ulnar notch of the radius, which is connected with the head of the ulna here, circumferentia articularis. Here, sorry guys. Sorry guys, I'm here. And that's it. Do you have questions about the radius and the ulna?
No.
No, okay. What about the hand bones? In Latin, ossa manus. Of course, we have 27 bones, 8 carpal bones, which are organized into 2 rows, proximal and distal row. 5 metacarpal bones, and we have phalanges. Here on the thumb we have only 2 phalanges, 1 proximal and 1 distal. For the other fingers we have 3 proximal, middle and distal phalanx. Which are the carpal bones? You can see here that's the proximal row, that's the distal row. Here, if you see, that's the scaphoid bone, lunatum, triquetrum, pisiforme. This one here, trapezium, trapezoideum, capitatum, hamatum. Let's see. I tell you, there are 4 bones of the proximal row and 4 bones on the distal row, from lateral to medial. So from the thumb to the little finger, scaphoid bone, lunatum, triquetrum, pisiforme. To the distal row, os trapezium, trapezoideum, capitatum, and hamatum. Each row forms an arch, you can see here. And that's the carpal tunnel, which is covered by the flexor retinacum, means the tendons of the muscles. Here, finger flexor tendons. And that's the carpal tunnel. That's the carpal bones here. That's the tunnel between them, between the carpal bones and the tendons of the flexor muscles. You can see again here, but that's the mnemonics of the carpal bones. If you want, you can remember them like this. She looks too pretty, try to catch her. Scaphoid, lunat, triquetrum, pisiform, trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, hamat. I know them in Latin, so os scaphoideum, os lunatum, os triquetrum, pisiforme, trapezium, trapezoideum, capitatum, hamatum. Let's start with the scaphoid bone. You can see it here, the location. Of course, this bone has articular surfaces for the connection with the other carpal bones and the radial bone. You can see here, it is connected with these 3 bones from the distal row and the lunate bone from the proximal row. Of course, the radial bone is also connected to it. Next one, os lunatum, here. It is connected with the radial bone again, and the other carpal bones here. That's the articular surfaces for the different carpal bones. The scaphoid bone here, the orange one, again with the articular surfaces for the other carpal bones. That's os pisiforme, pisiform bone, with articular surface for the triquetral bone. From the distal row, the first one is trapezium, which is connected with the first metacarpal bone. For the second metacarpal bone, you can see here, of course, for the trapezoid bone and scaphoid bone. Next one, trapezoid bone. It is connected with the second metacarpal bone with trapezium, scaphoid, and os capitatum. Os capitatum here, you can see It is connected with the second and third metacarpal bone, with the trapezoid bone here, with os hamatum, and with scaphoid and lunate bone. And the last one from the distal row, it is located on the same side like the little finger. This is os hamatum, which is connected with the fourth and fifth metacarpal bones, with capitatum. This one here, triquetrum, and unatum. I told you we have 5 metacarpal bones. They have body, base, and head. You can see, okay, you can see here. That's the metacarpal bone. There are 5. They have body, distal, and proximal end. The proximal end is called base, sorry. The distal end is called head. You can see the head is at the distal end, the base is at the proximal end. The phalanges, I told you, there are 14, 2 phalanges for the thumb. You can see here, only proximal and distal phalanx of the thumb. For the other fingers, there are 3, proximal, middle, and distal phalanx. Each phalanx has, again, body, base, body, base, and apex. It's the same like the metacarpal bones. You can see here. That's the metacarpal, that's the phalanges. Do you have questions? Because we finish with the upper limb. Or you want to see them next week, and after that you ask.
We will review them next week, right?
Yeah, all these bones, I will give you free time to review them, and you can ask me if you want when we are there.
Okay.
So, I told you for the carpal bones, there are only 8 in 2 rows, organized in 2 rows, 4 for the proximal row, another 4 for the distal row. 5 metacarpal bones, 14 phalanges, 2 for the thumb, 3 for the other fingers. Yeah, and that's proximal phalanges, middle phalanges, and distal phalanges. You can see that the thumb doesn't have middle phalanx. Now the pictures of the hand. And that's it. Now we will continue with the bones of the lower limb. We have bones of the pelvic girdle, this one here, and bones of the free lower limb, the same like for the upper limb. So the pelvic girdle is formed by the paired pelvic bone, one right, one left. Of course, hip bones. The pelvic bone is composed of 3 fused bones. That's the ilium, pubic bone, and the purple one is the ischium. You know that the main function is support and protective function for the internal organs. You know these things. The free lower limb consists of the thigh or femur, the leg, which is consisted of two bones, two long bones, tibia and fibula, and the foot. Let's start with the hip bone, os coxae. I told you, large flat bone, which is composed of three parts: ilium, ischium, and the pubis. The two hip bones join at the pubic symphysis, here. And also they are connected to the sacrum at the sacroiliac joint, here. That's the sacrum. If you remember, on the sacrum we have auricular surface on the lateral part of the sacrum. We have the same surface on the ilium, and they are connected. That's the sacroiliac joint between the ilium and the sacrum. So each hip bone is connected to the corresponding thigh bone. Here in the acetabulum, you can see that's the head of the femur. Here should be the acetabulum, and that's the connection between the thigh and the femur and the hip bone. So each bone, ilium, ischium, and pubis, has a central massive part, which is called body. That's the body of the ilium, for example, the body of the ischium, the body of the pubic bone. And one or two additional parts. For example, for the ilium, the additional part is called wing. For the ischium and the pubic bone, the additional parts are called branches or rami. For example, we have here ramus ossis ischi, ramus of the ischium, and we have two branches or two rami for the pubic bone, one superior, and one inferior ramus. You can see the pelvic brim is a continuous oval ridge that runs along the pubic symphysis, here, just on the middle. That's the pubic symphysis, the connection between the two pubic bones. Pubic crest, arcuate lines, ala ossis sacri, if you remember here, and the sacral promontory. If you remember, that's the base of the sacrum, and that's the promontorium. Ala ossis sacri, that's the arcuate line, pubic crest, and symphysis pubic. That's the border between the abdominal cavity and the pelvic cavity. So we have false pelvis, which is a part of, which is above this line, and true pelvis, which is in the region inferior to it. And of course, that's the some diameters of the pelvis, which you don't have to know them for now. That's the opening, the inferior opening of the pelvic between the coccyx, sacrotuberal ligament, pubic arch again. That's the symphysis pubica here. These angles, you have to know them at the end of the semester, not now. So let's start with the ilium. That's the location of the ilium. You can see here. So the uppermost and largest part of the hip bone. It is divided into two parts: the body, corpus ossis ili, and the wing, ala ossis ili. The separation is here. The separation is indicated on the top surface by a curved line, which is called arcuate line, linea arcuata, here, and on the external surface by the margin of the acetabulum, here. This one, linea supraacetabullaris. above the acetabulum, supraacetabuaris. So the body forms part of the acetabular fossa. That's the acetabulum with the acetabular fossa. You can see the body forms part of it. That's the body. Now, the wing, just on the wing we have, or the superior margin of the wing is called crest, crista iliaca, here, which has two lips, inner lip and outer lip. So in Latin, labium internum, labium externum. For example, you can see them here. That's the iliac crest, the superior border of the ilium. That's the external lip, this one here. That's the internal lip on the other side. What else? You can see here, you can see here on the external lip, the tuberculum iliacum, the tubercle of the iliac crest. Here, you can see it also here. That's the iliac tubercle and the external lip of the iliac crest. On the other side is the internal lip. What else? In front of the crest ends with an anterior spine, spina iliaca anterior superior, and in the back here you can see spina iliaca superior, posterior superior. So in front, spina iliaca anterior superior, on the back side, spina iliaca posterior superior. And just below them, there is another one spine. On the posterior side, spina iliaca posterior inferior. In front, spina iliaca anterior inferior. So we have 4 spines here. 2 anterior, 1 superior, 1 inferior, and 2 posterior spine. 1 superior, 1 inferior. Again, that's the iliac crest with the iliac tubercle. That's the where they are. That's the posterior superior iliac spine, posterior inferior iliac spine. That's the anterior superior iliac spine. That's the anterior inferior iliac spine. So I told you we have inner surface. That's the lateral surface of the wing, or it is also called facies glutea, which is divided by 3 lines. We have posterior gluteal line, anterior gluteal line, and 1 inferior gluteal line. Posterior, anterior, inferior. The medial surface you can see here. That's the medial surface. It is called fossa iliaca. Here is located one muscle here, which is called musculus iliacus. So that's the fossa iliaca on the inner surface. That's the lateral surface. Here you can see the auricular surface of the wing. We have the same surface on the sacrum, and here is the connection between them. Above this auricular surface, we have iliac tuberosity. Now you can see them. That's the lateral surface, that's the wing. Here is the body, which takes part in the formation of the acetabulum. That's sulcus supraacetabuaris here. That's the acetabulum. And now you can see crista iliaca This is the iliac tubercle. That's the labium, the external lip. That's the internal lip. Spina iliaca anterior superior. Spina iliaca anterior inferior. Here, this is spina iliaca posterior superior and spina iliaca posterior inferior. The three lines on the lateral surface, posterior, anterior, and inferior. The lateral surface is also called facies glutea. What we can see here, maybe for the acetabulum. This part here, the superior part, that's the corpus of the body of the ileum. And now you can see that it takes part of the formation of the acetabulum. That's the part of the pubic bone, and this is part of the ischium. And the three bodies, the bodies of the three bones form the acetabulum. With facies lunata, with one fovea, here we will talk about it. Now you can see facies auricularis of the ileum for the connection with the sacrum, and here is tuberositas iliaca. That's the inner surface, fossa iliaca, the anterior spine, superior and inferior. Between here, this is the linea arcuata, which is the border between the ala and the body, the wing and the body of the ileum. Between the ileum and the pubic bone is this eminence here, which is called eminentia iliopubica. Another angle, again, fossa iliaca, tuberositas iliaca. This one here is the auricular surface, arcuate line between the body and the wing, eminentia iliopubica, that's the acetabulum, and this is the spine, superior and inferior spine, external lip, internal lip. The next bone, ischium, os ischium, this one here. It has body. The body is here, the massive part, and one branch, ramus ossis ischii. Again, the body participates in the closure of the acetabulum. So, here, ramus ossis ischii fused with the inferior ramus of the pubic bone. And the place where they are fused is called ramus ischiopubicus. So they form one ramus, for example, ramus ischiopubicus. But you have to remember that the ischium has body and ramus ossis ischii, which fused with the inferior ramus of the pubic bone, and they form ramus ischiopubicus. Between the ramus and the body is tuber ischiaticum, this one, ischiotuberosity. On the posterior border of the body is located this one here, the spine, ischiospine, spina ischiatic, here and here. Above it there is a large notch, which is called incisura ischiatica major, the greater sciatic notch. Below the spine is the lesser sciatic notch, incisura ischiatica minor. So that's the body, that's the spine, ischiotuberosity, inferior ischioramus, and that's the lesser, that's the greater sciatic notch. And the pubic bone, again, we have body, which take parts of the formation of that acetabulum, superior and inferior ramus. Ramus superior ossis pubis, ramus inferior ossis pubis. Between them, there is an angle. Which carries an articular surface, facies symphysialis, through which the two bones are connected. You can see here, that's the pubic symphysis. the superior rami, the inferior rami. What else? Between the bodies of the pubis and the ilium is located eminentia iliopectinea. I told you. Eminentia iliopectinea. It should be here. On the superior ramus, we have one crest, for example, which is called pectenosis pubis, or pectinal line is here, pectenosis pubis, ending posteriorly in the arcuate line on the ilium, and anteriorly in the pubic tubercle, tuberculum pubicum. That's the symphysial surface, inferior pubic ramus. The lower edge, maybe it's not here. The lower ledge is called crista obturatoria, here. And also there is a groove, sulcus obturatorius, between the superior and the inferior ramus and the os ischium is foramen obturatorium. No, maybe here. What we can see here, that's pectenosis pubis, ramus inferioris pubis with crista pubica, tuberculum pubicum, ramus ossis ischii. So here between the inferior and the inferior ramus of the pubic bone and ramus ossis ischii, here should be the ramus ischium pubicus. That's the tuber ischiadicum, the spina ischiadica with the greater and the lesser sciatic notch. That's the greater above the spine. Below the spine is the lesser sciatic notch. Again, another angle, ramus ossis ischii, corpus ossis ischii. This one here. That's the ramus. Here, ramus inferior ossis pubis, corpus ossis pubis, and ramus superior ossis pubis. You can see here facies symphysialis for the connection with the other pubic bone. Tuberculum obturatorium anterius, tuberculum obturatorium posterius. Here, that's the foramen obturatum. You can see here sulcus obturatorius, pectenosis pubis, and here is the arcuate line. Eminentia iliopubica between the pubic bone and the ilium. Incisura ischiadica major and minor, spina ischiadica between them. Also here, eminentia iliopubica, pectenosis pubis, crista pubica. Ramus superior, ramus inferior ossis pubis. This one here is ramus ossis ischii, and on the posterior side, tuber ischiadicum here. Sorry. One minute, please. When we have to finish this lesson, do you know?
I think it was 4:45.
4:45. Okay, so we don't have so many time. I will check. Wait. Yeah, 4:45. Oh no, it's Monday. Okay. Let's continue. Bones of the free lower limb. Of course, let's start with the thigh bone, or in Latin, femur. The femur is the largest bone in the human body. It consists of body, proximal and distal end, the same like the radial and ulnar bone. So, The body, corpus femoris, has an anterior surface which is smooth and a posterior surface with a rough line, which is called linea aspera. This line has two lips. I will try to find. Yeah. So that's the posterior view. You can see the smooth anterior surface here and the rough posterior side with this line, linea aspera, which has two lips, lateral and middle. That's the middle, that's the lateral. So the lateral lip, labium laterale, continues proximally into the gluteal tuberosity and distally here to the lateral supracondylar line, linea supracondylaris lateralis. The middle lip continues here proximally into the pectineal line, linea pectinea, and distally to the medial supracondylar line. And now you can see that these two supracondylar lines enclose a triangular fossa, which is called facies poplitea, or poplital surface. So, linea aspera with two lips, medial and lateral. Lateral lip continues proximally into the gluteal tuberosity, distally into the lateral supracondylar line. Medial lip continues proximally into the pectineal line and distally into the medial supracondylar line. Between the two supracondylar lines is located the poplital surface, facies poplitea. What else? That's on the body. About the proximal end, what we can see here, of course, the head of the femur, or caput femoris in Latin, which is covered with an articular cartilage. You can see there is a depression just on the middle, but yeah, here. Just on the middle side, fovea capitis femoris. Between the body and the head is the neck of the femoral bone, column femoris. And what we can see here at the proximal end of the body, so that's the head, that's the neck between the head and the body, and on the proximal end of the body, there are two massive structures. One which is located more proximally and laterally, and is called greater trochanter, this one here, and one lesser trochanter. That's the anterior surface, that's the posterior surface. So in front, the two trochanters are connected in front by one crest here. No. At the back part are online. So this picture is has a mistake. Here on the anterior side is the crest, intertrochanteric crest. Here on the back side is the line, linea intertrochanterica, on the back, not on the front. So you have to remember that crista intertrochanterica is in front, linea intertrochanterica is on the back, between the two trochanters, greater and lesser, trochanter major, trochanter minor. The head of the femoral bone, the neck, that's the proximal end of the body, greater trochanter, lesser trochanter, crista and linea intertrochanterica between them. What about the distal end? You can see here, we have condylus lateralis, condylus medialis. Condylus medialis is bigger, of course. In front, you can see here, in front we have the articular surface of the two condyles, which continue into the one common. Here we have articular surface of the middle condyle, the articular surface of the lateral condyle, and in front the auricular surfaces of the two condyles continue into one common surface, which is called facies patellaris. This one here. Between the two condyles, the medial and the lateral condyle, we have fossa intercondylaris and linea intercondylaris between them. Linea intercondylaris and fossa intercondylaris. On the outer surface of each condyle, there is a epicondyle, of course, lateral and medial epicondyle, with tuberculum adductorium here. So, body, proximal, distal end. About the proximal end, you have to say that there is a head with fovea capitis, the neck between the head and the body. The proximal end of the body, here we can find the greater and lesser trochanter, and the line and the crest between them. About the body, the anterior smooth surface. On the posterior surface, we have linea aspera with two lips, lateral and medial, and their continuations. Here, on the proximal part, we have gluteal tuberosity and pectineal line. Here we have linea supracondylaris medialis and lateralis. Between them, we have facies poplitea. Facies poplitea. About the distal end, you have to say that there are the lateral and the medial epicondyles, the lateral and medial condyles. The medial one is bigger. There are articular surfaces in front. They form one common articular surface, which is called facies patellaris. On each side, we have lateral and medial epicondyle. On the posterior side, between the condyles, we have fossa intercondylaris and linea intercondylaris. And of course, that the bone structure, the nutrient artery, each bone has a nutrient artery. I told you at the end of the semester, at the beginning of the semester. Of course, if it is a long bone, it has epiphysis, metaphysis, diaphysis. What about the tibia? Again, long bone with body. Long bone with body, proximal and distal end. What we can see here, again, the body has three borders: anterior, this one here, posterior, and one interosseous border here. Again, we have interosseous membrane between the tibia and fibula. If we have three borders, of course, we have three surfaces: lateral. Let's start with the lateral, medial, and the posterior surface. Proximal and distal end. About the proximal end, we have again condyles, lateral and medial condyle, with, of course, you can see here the articular surfaces on their superior parts. Medial condyle, lateral condyle, the intercondylar tubercles between them. That's the anterior side, that's the posterior side. This is the superior view. And here you can see the articular surfaces. Of course, for the condyles here of the femur. What else? between them, I told you, eminentia intercondylaris with the intercondylar tubercles, lateral one and medial one. Of course, two areas, area intercondylaris anterior, area intercondylaris posterior, but the most important things are these things, that it has body, proximal and distal end, three margins, three surfaces. About the proximal end, the two condyles, medial and lateral condyle, intercondylar eminence with the two tubercles, medial and lateral one. And that's it. We have here articular surfaces for the connection with the femur. And here, on the lateral surface, here, just next to the lateral condyle, there is an articular surface for the for connection with the fibula, with the here bone of the leg, lower leg. You can see here again. That's tibial tuberosity on the anterior surface. Here is the anterior border. That's the interosseous border. And here is the posterior one. That's the superior view. So medial and lateral condyle with articular surfaces. The eminence between them, eminence intercondylaris with tuberculum mediale, tuberculum laterale. That's tibial tuberosity 2. And here is the notch for the fibula. So the tibia is located medially on the toe side. Here, on the distal end, on its medial side is located the medial ankle, malleus medialis, is this one. Of course, it has articular surface for the connection with the tarsal bones, facies articularis inferior. On its lateral side here, this one, is located a notch again for the connection with the fibula, incisurum fibularis. That's it for the tibia. The body with three borders and three surfaces. The proximal end with the condyles, lateral and medial. Tibial tuberosity. The articular surfaces for the connection with the condyles of the femur. Eminence intercondylaris with the tubercles. On the distal end, we have malleus medialis and incisura fibularis, a notch for the fibula. You can see here, this is patella, that's the purple one is the articular surface of the femur. This is the medial condyle with the epicondyle. That's the lateral condyle with the epicondyle. You can see here tibial tuberosity. That's the medial condyle and that's the lateral condyle with its articular surfaces. Here it should be the intercondylar eminentia. And about the fibula, again, long body, laterally located. It also has body, proximal and distal part. The body has three borders, two, margul anterior, margul posterior, margul interosseus here. And of course, three surfaces, lateralis, medialis, and posterior. About the proximal part, this is the head of the fibula, which ends with the apex capitis fibulae. And of course, we have, so that's the head. And here we have the articular surface for the connection with the tibia, of course. On the distal end, we have lateral the lateral ankle, malleus lateralis here. So that's the malleus medialis from the tibia, malleus lateralis from the fibula. On the distal part, of course, between the head and the body is the neck of the fibula, called fibula. You can see here again. And about the bones of the foot, we have tarsal, metatarsal, and tarsal, metatarsal bones, and phalanges, the same like for the arm. For the hand, the tarsal bones are 7, again organized into 2 rows. We have proximal row and distal, proximal and distal row. About the proximal row, we have only 2 bones here, talus and calcaneus. About the distal row, we have the other 5 bones, os naviculare, ossa cuneiforme medial, intermedium and laterale, and os cuboideum. The metatarsal bones are 5, you can see them here, and the phalanges are also 14, 2 for the toe, 3 for the other fingers. You can see them now. That's the proximal row, that's the distal row, the metatarsal bones, and the phalanges. That's the mnemonic again. What about the talus? Here you can see it has neck, head, neck, and body. Of course, we have articular surfaces for the connection with the tibia and fibula. That's the most important. Head, neck, body, and articular surfaces for the connection with the tibia and fibula. Of course, we have one posterior process with 2 tubercles, medial and lateral. Of course, here we have, from the inferior side, we have posterior articular surface for the calcaneus, and of course for the connection with the navicular bone. You can see that's the navicular bone, so we have to, this bone has an articular surface for it. That's the calcaneus, so here should be the articular surface for the calcaneus. Here on this side, you can see the articular surfaces for the tibia and fibula. About the calcaneus, this one here, you can see what articular surfaces for the talus, os cuboideum, of course. What else? This one here is called tuber calcanei. This is tuber calcanei. That's the most important thing. Sustentacum, tali, and the other lateral process, medial process. Calcaneal tuberosity actually is this one, tuber calcanei, from the posterior view. Navicular bone here in front of the talus. Here you can see the accessory. Some people has accessory navicular bone. That's the cuboid bone, os cuboideum. Just next to the navicular bone is os cuboideum. And in front of the navicular bone, there are 3 cuneiform bones. One medial, one intermediate, and one lateral cuneiform bones. So these are the tarsal bones. Talus here, calcaneus. In front of them, navicular and cuboid bone. And in front of the navicular bone, the 3 cuneiform bones. Medial, intermediate, lateral. Medial one, the intermediate one, and of course the lateral one. 5 metatarsal bones, you know that. body, base, head. Between the head and the body is the neck. And that's the phalanges. You can see the toe has only distal and proximal phalanx, while the other fingers has 3 phalanges, proximal, middle, and distal. And they also have base, body, and head. Base located proximally, the head located distally. That's it. Do you have questions?
No.
A lot of information.
Yeah, you just have to memorize.
Yeah, I know. But next time you have enough time for all these things. For the next week, only revision, sorry.